Everybody, this is Instructor Beats here with our companion video for Sides Check. My name's Andrew, my partner is Ken in the background doing the camera, and we're going to be exploring the song that we have out there, and then also the word problem strategy Sides Check. So we are teachers, which means we need to have objectives. If you're going to judge our objectives, please don't comment on our video because we don't care. These are not the best objectives, obviously. You might want to have some better ones for your students. But today we should, after the video, have a clear understanding of what Sides Check actually means. We want to develop a clearer understanding of how this can help your students meet their goals by looking at example problems. And we are going to provide 3 tips on how to implement this successfully into your classroom. Because anybody can implement anything, that doesn't mean it's going to be good. So, first of all, we want to start with, let me move this over, what Sides Check actually is. Okay, so if you saw the video, you probably know what these stand for. The S is for statement, the I is for identify important information, the D is for develop a plan or draw a picture, the E is for equation, the S stands for solve, and then obviously you want to check your work when you get done. And we're going to teach you, we're going to go in depth to each of these. So obviously Sides Check is a word problem strategy. We think it's the best one out there, and we'll explain why as we go. It's definitely better than cubes if you're using cubes, and it's better than runs. I don't know why you would ever say the word runs in your classroom over and over again, but it's definitely better than that. So the first thing we want to look at is what the statement means. Okay, so our statement, what we're doing when we write a statement is we're going to rewrite the question as a complete sentence, leaving a blank for an answer. And the reason we do this is to frame the work you're about to do. Okay, and we'll kind of talk about that in a second. And then the other important thing that we're going to be exploring in this video is why. So for each step, we're going to talk about why we do it. We invite you to share this with your students because just as we don't like to do things our administrators tell us to do unless we really know why it's going to benefit us and why it's going to help us or help our school or our students want to know why they're doing things too. And if they don't, they should, because we're trying to develop 21st century learners who should be asking why when they hear things, or they should be questioning things and not just accepting it because it's on the internet or because somebody who they think is smart told them that. Okay, so the first why is this: when you write a statement, it allows a small success to lead to more. So what I mean by that is we have many students who have struggled with math their entire time in elementary school. We both teach 5th grade, but I've used this in middle school, all the way down to probably 1st grade when they learn how to write, maybe even high school for some teachers. But what we found is people don't like things they're not good at. And we know that, right? And so if you're not good at something, you don't want to do it. So any small success that we can build in our students and allow them to say, hey, wait, I can do the first step, that typically leads to more success down the road, whether it's with the particular word problem or with math or anything. A small success will lead to more. And then the second thing is, how many times has your administrator told you, begin with the end in mind, take these standards and look at them before you do your work, or take the assessment and work backwards. And we're told that all the time, and we know that's the best teaching practice, but we don't do that with our students. This is why I hate cubes. The C in cube stands for circle things, I guess. But how can you be circling anything if you don't know the question you're supposed to answer? And maybe that's built in, and you're supposed to infer that with other word problems. Strategies, but this is a concrete step that they're telling you. You must write a statement before you start circling things, before you start trying to solve things. Write a statement to begin with the end in mind, and then the statement will help you lead you to more success and help you down the road. So the statement then leads to identify. So when you're identifying the important information, you're only identifying the important information that goes with your statement. We found a lot of people, especially when they come in from another classroom and we're telling them to identify, they're just, they think we just want to see something on their paper. So they're circling literally every single word in the word problem. But we're only identifying the things that go with your statement. If your question's asking about apples, We're going to be circling things about apples. So the why for this, right, is it's going to give concrete steps for students. If they come to a word problem and they don't know what to do, they can write a statement, they can identify what goes with that statement, and it's telling them exactly what to identify. Not every little thing, but the things that are going to help them answer their statement. Okay, so it goes back to their statement, guiding and beginning with the end in mind. And then the second reason is anybody can do it, right? Anybody can write a statement. My 2.5-year-old can write a statement. He can't. I wish he could. He'd be a genius. Get scholarships, get me out of college debt, all those things. But one day he will. But if you're teaching 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, anybody can write a statement and anybody can circle the important things that go with that statement. I know if you're teaching math, you've dealt with this. Students come up to you, they're like, Mr. Butler, I don't know what to do on this word problem. I'm confused. You look at their paper, there's nothing there. That's frustrating, right? Because then you're trying to decide, okay, or if it's homework, and they're like, oh, I didn't understand it, and they have nothing on their paper. Because then at that moment, you're trying to decide, okay, well, did they actually try and they don't understand it, or were they being lazy, or did they forget? So what I tell my students is, anybody can write a statement, anybody can identify. If you have homework and you didn't understand, those 2 steps better be done if you want me to count it. Before you come up to me and ask me a question in class, statement and identify. If you come up, I just say statement, identify, they go back and they do it. That's saving me time, it's saving me a headache, and it's allowing them to take ownership for their learning. And again, a small success leads to a small success in identifying because anybody can do it. And by that time, they got the ball rolling and they're feeling good about themselves as they move into developing a plan and drawing a picture. So the purpose of this, what they're doing in this step is they're organizing their thoughts. And this is really creative time for you teachers or for the students. This is where you can pick the strategy that you want to solve. So if you're using tape diagrams, if you want them to draw their picture, if you want them, to write out, well, the equation comes next. But if any of those things, anything that you have been using to teach them how to solve problems for years, this is where you implement that. Okay. And again, the why is what we found is the hardest part about 5th grade math is being neat. How many students are writing down the wrong numbers, or they're drawing the wrong picture, or they're doing something just because they're rushing through it, not being neat. This makes them slow down. It makes them think about it. Makes them organize the identify and the statement that they're trying to solve. And then that leads to, if they can get here and they can organize, then most of the time they take it all the way. Right? So if they come up to me and they're like, okay, Mr. Bell, I wrote my statement, I identified, now I can talk to you. Okay, well, how would you organize this? And sometimes that's all I need to ask them. I'm like, well, I would do this. And I say, okay, well, go do it. Well, you don't need me to tell you that. And they go do it, and boom, they're done. And they're like, oh, yeah, now I know what I'm doing. And that excitement in their eyes of when they get it is part of the reason that I teach, right? And probably part of the reason you teach, too, if you're taking the time to watch this video and try to learn something to make your students better mathematicians. And then that leads us into the equation part. So this is where I've gotten a lot of pushback from some teachers, at my schools. They're like, well, my kids are in 3rd grade. They can't write an equation. Well, yeah, they can. You just have to teach them, just like anything else. Some of your kids couldn't walk in the hallway or raise their hand before you taught them how to do it, right? And so this is developing algebraic skills. Hopefully I spelled that word right. Not really sure. Well, it's not red, so I guess I did. And so what we're doing is, when we do this, is we can not only develop algebraic skills for later, but we can now also answer any type of question. And so if you've taken a state test, at least if you're in North Carolina, you've seen the questions where instead of having them answer the question, it says, what equation would Johnny use to solve this? And then the kids freak out because, oh, I don't know, right? Well, if you're doing sides check, then you just say, wait a minute, you're already doing that. Just pick the equation you use to solve it, and it opens up all new doors and all new possibilities for the types of questions you can ask in class. And again, the why, right? The reason this is important is obviously so they know what to do when they solve the problem, right? That should go without saying. But it also prepares them for the future, right? So in your classroom, you should always not be thinking about just that year you have them, but the years down the line, and preparing them for success later. Because it really doesn't matter if they can pass your state test or pass your test if the next year they fail. Right? As a teacher, we're always preparing them for the future and what they need to be doing. And so if you're teaching them now how to write equations and even introducing the word variable in a non-threatening way and just kind of in casual conversation, they pick up on those things. And then when they go to algebra class or pre-algebra or whatever they're in, right, they're like, oh yeah, I've seen that before, right? And now it's not something brand new because they've been doing it for years. And then that leads us right into the solve. So now you've written your equation. Hopefully, if you're watching this video, you don't need me to explain why it's important that we have the solve part. If you do, there are several self-help videos out on YouTube where you can figure out the existence of why you're on this earth. But the check part is, I think, also unique, not just to this, because I know there's other strategies that have this, but inside check what we do is we put the answer back into the statement and then read it to use our common sense and make sure it makes sense, right? So why? Let me give you an example for why. You know, we've all probably seen a question like this: how much money did the team have left, right? And let me get my marker out really quickly. My technology, thank you, Ken. Now I gotta figure out, oh, there we go. Oh, ooh, we're fancy here, okay? Right, and let's say, you know, I'm not gonna do the whole thing, this is just an example, but the team in the word problem, right, had started with $200. Your question says the team had blank dollars left, and somehow your students came up with the answer $250, right? Because instead of subtracting, they added it. Well, first of all, that drives you crazy. So this is kind of to help keep you sane. You're teaching the skill of reading this statement and saying, wait a minute, if I'm asking for how much money they had left, how could they have $250 if they spent $50? Right? And they're going back and they're reading that, and it's causing them to slow down. And yes, you'll have students who just fill it in and they still don't do it. But you continue to teach them, you continue to talk, you continue to make sure they're doing it, and eventually they will get it. It might take a while. And now they're like, oh, wait a minute, I did something wrong. Oh, I was supposed to subtract, right? They erase it. I don't know how to use the eraser. Is there eraser on it? Oh, man. We're going to be really good at this eventually. You know, they go back and erase it, they resolve it, and they come up with the correct answer. So it's really all about keeping you sane and allowing them to take ownership of their learning so that you are not doing the heavy lifting, which we hear all the time, but some of us aren't really sure what to do. Okay, so now let's take that and let's do a couple examples. So our objective was to have a clear understanding. So maybe you understand what the words look like, but now you're not sure exactly how you could use it. So we have Carly has 4 packs of stickers. She's going to share them equally among herself and 4 friends. What fraction of a pack of stickers will each friend get? Okay, I have taught at schools where we had students who were new to the country and couldn't, you know, they didn't speak great English. I've worked at schools where I had the worst English and the kids were correcting me. This strategy works for anybody, okay? And so I'm confused, I have a big word problem, but I'm gonna start with the statement. And so what I always do is over here, or on this, oops, I have the eraser still. Maybe, oh, there it is, pen, all right. Ooh, red, I like red. So I'm gonna start over here, maybe. That work? All right, there we go. And I'm gonna write my sides check over here, and that's just to help. I cross it out as I go. And so the first thing I want to do is I want to write my statement. I want to begin with my end in mind. So my question says, what fraction of a pack of stickers will each friend get? So my statement would say, each friend, excuse my handwriting, I write like a child. Each friend gets blank fraction of a pack of stickers. Okay, and again, you know, this doesn't have to be proper English. Okay, that's not the point of this. We're not reading teachers, although I do teach reading, not that great. Each friend gets blank fraction of a pack of stickers. Okay. Wow, that is really bad handwriting. I'm gonna work on that. Right. So now I've written my statement. I cross this out, and this allows me to know. Okay, I'm looking for anything about friends, and I'm looking for anything about stickers. Okay, as someone who is a emerging English language speaker or reader, this is going to help them, and I love this for my students who were like that, to know, okay, I'm looking for these couple keywords, okay, and then anything else that we've taught them to look for, but it really cuts this down into a few. I always say there's a lot of crap up here. We got to cut that out and find out what's important. Okay, don't say crap in front of your students unless you know they're not going to tell on you. But you know, anyway, that's about relationship building there. So anyway, And so I have these, okay, and so now I'm looking for anything about friends or stickers. So I see that she has 4 packs of stickers. She's going to share them equally. Now this is something as when we do division that we talk about, and I'm going to annotate this with the division sign, right? Among herself and 4 friends. So this is important. This is something we talk about all the time. That's actually 5 people, okay? And so we're always constantly looking for that. And then I want to know how much of a pack will each friend get, okay? So now through my identifying, I have figured out that I am dividing, okay? And so my develop a plan, you do not have to do this. This is where you get to be creative. My develop a plan, I will do in a different color now that I know how to work that, okay? For my develop a plan for division, when I teach my students that we do a blank division equation, and we think about, okay, what's my dividend, what's my divisor? So what is being shared here? Well, she's sharing them equally. The them is talking about the sentence before, which is my 4 packs of stickers, okay? And I label packs here, okay? I have my students do that. This is your ball game where you get to choose that. She is sharing them equally among herself and 5 friends, right? So we know that that is 5 friends. We label that. And then my statement, okay, because we're talking about division, should be each friend gets. If my divisor is friends, my quotient should be each friend, which it is. And then, you know, any way you want to teach them how to solve this, right? But hopefully we know the answer is 4/5. And so, I developed my plan. I'm not even teaching it good. I did my equation. You see my equation right here. Okay, sorry I skipped talking over that. I've done it so many times. There's always room to grow, even when you're teaching on YouTube. And I've solved it. And I messed it. There we go. And I've solved it. Okay, so I did all 3 of those steps on accident too quickly. And now I want to check it to make sure that it makes sense. So I'm going to go back in. I'm going to write my answer here. Okay, each friend gets 4/5 fraction of a pack of stickers. Okay, to me that makes sense because there were 4 packs and 5 friends. Okay, so nothing sticks out to me. You know, obviously it should be a whole number if it says fraction, but none of my answers are right there. So my answer should be 4/5, right? So that's just an example problem with fractions that we do. Again, this is a 5th grade problem. You might be a 3rd grade teacher and say, well, this doesn't apply to me. Well, the steps do, and you can use those steps, okay? So we have one more. And this one is just an open-ended word problem. We have Olivia bought 11 and 2600 pounds of potatoes, 4 and 8900 pounds of red potatoes. The rest were sweet potatoes. How many pounds of sweet potatoes did Olivia buy? Again, I'm going to write, no I'm not, I will write eventually my sides check over here. Can we plug in the computer? My size check over here, so I'm going to write my statement. Okay, so if my question is saying how many pounds of sweet potatoes will Olivia buy, I'm going to say Olivia will buy blank pounds of sweet potatoes. Okay, and again, we're not talking about proper English. We do want as complete a sentence as we can get. Okay, so now because I wrote my statement, which anybody can do, I now know that I'm looking for anything that she bought and anything about pounds and anything about sweet potatoes. I've focused on a few different things instead of everything about the word problem. That's why this is better than cubes and some of those other ones that don't make you write a statement first. So now I want to identify anything about what she bought, pounds, and sweet potatoes. Well, she bought 11 and 2600 pounds of potatoes. Okay, well, now I'm looking for pounds still, so 4 and 8900 pounds, right, were red potatoes. And then we teach our kids to look for this. The rest, which clues me into I might be subtracting, so I will annotate that right there, were sweet potatoes. Okay, how many pounds of sweet potatoes did Olivia buy? So now I've identified, and I'm doing that again. Okay, now I need to develop my plan. This is how I develop my plan. You could do a tape diagram. You could do anything you want. Okay, this is how I do it. You might not like it. That's okay. Teach however you want. Okay, she bought potatoes. Oh, don't. You gotta complete that. You might get in trouble if you just write the first part of that word. So the potatoes were 11 and 2600. Okay, some of them were red potatoes. 4 and 8900, and the rest of them were sweet potatoes. Okay? And what I teach my class, again, is that if you get a red pen, if you are looking for sweet potatoes, I put what I call my answer box. It's supposed to be a dotted line, but the pen's messed up right here. That means whenever I do all my solving, whatever is in this box right here has got to be my answer, because that's what my statement's asking me about, right? So obviously, you know, and you could teach us, I probably don't need to solve this problem. This is your total right here, okay? You're going to subtract what you get from right there. So your equation, if you were doing it, would be 11, and again, you can teach your kids how to do any way you want, equals sweet potatoes, right? This could be your equation that you write, and then all you would have to do is solve it. So let me see if I can, I don't know if I can, there we go, okay? Man, I'm really nervous, because if I do the math wrong, that'd be really bad. So, you line it up. Again, you teach your kids any way you want how to do this. That's not the point of this video. It's just about how to get to this point, teach them how to solve it. Right, grab it like it's hot. And your answer would be 6 27/100, which you try to write there as neat as you can. You go back and you write in your statement to make sure that it makes sense. Olivia will buy 6 27/100 pounds of sweet potatoes. That makes sense to me. At least it's reasonable, because I knew I was subtracting, and I started with 11, and now I have 6. So that's a decent, reasonable answer right there. Okay. So anyway, those are 2 examples. And so if you have any questions whatsoever, if you want more examples, if you want some word problems, please feel free to shoot us an email. We'll share that at the end of the video. Here are some tips for implementing successfully, right? The first one is to do it all the time. If you're telling your students they need to do this word problem strategy, then you need to do the word problem strategy. If you don't believe me, look in your school. Look for the teachers with the loudest classes in the hallway, because I'm sure if you're in elementary school, there shouldn't be any talking in the hallway and transitions. Look for the teachers that have the loudest ones, and look at what they do in the hallway. They're either on their phone, or they're also talking to everybody they see. Kids should listen to you just because you're the teacher. Unfortunately, that's not how life works, at least in this country. So you need to be doing this. If it's a morning work problem, there's a word problem, you do sides check. Involve your students and make sure that, and have them tell you what to do next. You're doing it all the time, because they are always watching you, which is why I have the creepy eye right there. If you want your students to do anything, you have to model it, and you have to model it all the time. Otherwise, they know that you really don't think it's that important. Second one, explain the why of each step. As you're teaching this to your students, as you're showing it to them, hopefully you use a song, just as a catchy thing, hook or whatever, right? But you need to explain the why of how it's going to help them, okay? Again, think about the teachers in your school. We don't like to do things our principal tells us to do unless we know why it's going to help us, or why it's going to help our students, or why it's going to help whatever. We want to know why. We don't just do things blindly, and that's okay, and that's important, but either do your students. So explain why each step is going to help them. And then the third one, write your own word problems, right? So many teachers just copy word problems offline, and they don't change anything. They give them to their students, and their students don't relate to them. You should be writing your own word problems. You should be putting their names in the word problems. The word problems should be about the kids in your class, or about you and your dog, or about them and their family. Copy offline if you want, but then just retype them and use the words. They will love this word problem strategy if when they get to use it, they can see themselves reflected in the word problems. So please make sure you're doing that. If you guys have any questions or any tips, thanks for watching. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. Oops, too far. Here is our YouTube page. Here is our Instagram. Apparently we don't have our email up there, so I will put that email in my childlike handwriting in red. If you need anything, if you have any questions, please email us at instructabeats@gmail.com. Okay, please follow us. Please subscribe to our channel so we can hopefully eventually make some money and keep making some videos. If you hate us, don't comment, because we don't care. We don't want to hear it. All right. Good luck, Instructor Beats!